Gentlemen, welcome back to the shed. Today, a treat especial, the AvE Welders Helper Ruler, straight from Canada. AvE is, I'm sure, goddammit, if you're watching this and you don't know who AvE is, stop right now, go check his channel out, but I'm sure everybody knows who he is. And he did these little shop project rulers. This was the first one, the shop ruler, and this is the second iteration, which is the Welders Helper. And basically it comes as this PCB circuit board, already pre-wired and printed for everything, and then he sends you a magnifying glass, an LED, a button, and the battery hold down. No battery included. You have to get that yourself or steal it, from your key fob. And a magnet. And you have to put all the pieces together before you get all of the functionality. And I didn't want to do a video on how I soldered this because if you look, I'm not the one to be taking soldering lessons from. I really suck at it. I always have. But I'm proficient, It doesn't look good, but it works, so who gives a shit if it looks good? But I did have one little issue. When I received it, this tab right here was bent, almost completely flattened out. So I sent him a message saying, I tried to straighten it back out, and it just snapped. This is like a brittle, I don't know what it is, but it's a brittle metal. You can bend it once, bend it twice, and it just breaks. And I sent him a message just to figure out what the fuck these things were called, so I could just order one. But with something this small and simple, you can't just order one, you gotta order like 5 of them. And I couldn't find one that was identical to this. I think the only one that I found that was identical, you had to order 100 of them. And I didn't feel like having 99 extra. So then he sent me a message back saying, oh, fuck, sorry about that. Really, if you just solder that joint back together, because this was completely separated, half right in two. And he said if you solder it back together, it'll be strong, just as strong, if not stronger, than it was originally. And I'll be damned, he was correct. I just tinned this pad, held that piece with a pair of pliers, set that on there at a slight angle in, and then I did the other side where this could rest on top of my broken part. Soldered those both together, and then ran the solder down the joint, and wiggled it a little bit, and it's holding fine. So no big deal. I think it gives it some character. So yeah, you get all the parts, and I don't think there was any instructions. If you want instructions, go to one of his videos. Other people have done videos about soldering this together. But I just wanted to review it, see if it's Skookum or Gabage. So let's go over the features. Here, obviously, you have your battery, your button, your LED, and a magnifying glass. That's for lighting up what you're trying to look at. There you go. I did a terrible job at installing the magnifying glass. There is a clear section in the middle of it though, and I put so much on there. I tried to pop it back, and I'm afraid I'm going to break. I think this super glued in there is stronger than that little bridge and then that little piece, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to break it if I try to get it back out. But it was a fun project, and like I said, that gives it character. Look at that. Look at that much character that has. So here's the welder's features of it. You have your gauge scale and gap width. So it goes from 20, this little notch on the end is 20 gauge, American wire gauge, 18, 16, and then you have 14 down here. And then it gets into 16ths, eighth, 3/16ths, and then, you want to know how wide something is. All right there, finger's about a half inch wide. That's good to know, 3/4 all the way to 7/8, so you can just stick that right on something like this knife. Just shy of 5/16ths. Between 5/16ths. I wish it had 5/8 on there. It doesn't have 5/8, but that's okay. I mean, you can get 5/8 from the ruler end. Another awesome thing about the ruler is it measures from the edge. 0 is the end of the ruler, which is not the case on a lot of other solid rulers. I'm glad that it has that design feature, because you can butt it right up against shit, and then you can get an accurate measurement. So another welder's feature is the stick welding. Your tungsten, I believe they are. I don't know anything about welding. your stick gauge, your MIG wire size gauge. You can see there is a difference in these little tiny holes. And your TIG filler gauge is 4 up here, and then they stuck a 0.9 mil down there by the edge. Here's your gap width and cunt hairs. Mediterranean, of course, being the thickest, and a little magnet that where I expertly super glued into this one. Expertly I laid it on the table, I put it in there, and I put a pile of super glue on top. It works though. It's in there. These things are only like $11. I wasn't going for perfection. I was going for I want to see it light up, and in my haste, it came out kind of ugly, but I feel pretty good about all the connections. Like I said, the button's down here, the light's up here. This is where the light's right next to the button. That's fine. So you can see the circuit path here. Your negative coming from, your constant negative coming from the battery to that side of the LED. And then you see this plate, see that under there? That connects this end of the switch. 2-pole, I'm not sure why it's 2-pole. If anybody can tell me why this is a 2-pole switch, I'd appreciate that. I don't understand why it has 4 posts on it. Why it could just have 2. Maybe it's just redundancy, so it works better. But you can see the positive jumps from either side of the battery, and it's connected by these 2 little spring tabs. Hits the button, comes all the way down, it hits the other side of the LED. You press that button, you complete the circuit. Very simple electronics project, and I grew up taking apart toys, and this is a concept, this positive and negative and DC voltage has been something I've been familiar with since I was a little kid. Whether I knew it or not, I was learning science taking apart my RC cars. But there's people that don't know that, and they would like to get into something like this, and this is a really simple project. He has a video that he even demonstrates how you can do this without a soldering iron. All you would need is some solder, a frying pan, and an oven, or a hot plate, any kind of piece of metal, and a blowtorch, and you effectively heat up the entire surface to melt, solder melting temperature. And if you place everything correctly, your bits of solder and your button and everything, when you heat up the whole thing, it just solders itself. You remove the heat, it cools, and it's all done. The example that he did in one of his videos was actually really impressive. I've never thought about that, but I actually think that's kind of a different version of the manufacturing processes of electronic circuit boards. They actually place all of the components, and I think they heat the entire thing up, and that's how it does it. That's just a guess. I know it's called reflow soldering, but that's about all the features there. You got your Packer detector. Whatever that. This is the if you're familiar with this, the thumb detecting nut fucker. That's the adjustable wrench with a hammer called a miner's wrench. I looked those up. I just wanted to have one because I thought it was cool. I wouldn't really have a practical use for it, but they're like $50, and I was like, it's not that cool. I have hammers and adjustable wrenches. That's it. There you have it. That is the AvE Welders Helper Ruler. Thanks for watching.